Hello YouTube, how we doing today? This is going to be a brief tutorial on how to play Gwent. I have a friend who has played probably a couple hundred hours of The Witcher 3 and cannot stand Gwent. He's never even tried it. So, to help him get started, I'm making this tutorial. This is for you, bud. Here we go. Alright, keep in mind, this is a early game. It's actually one of the first rounds I've played in this playthrough, so I do not have a very strong deck at this point, and I'm competing against low-level players, so not going to be anything, you know, super complex or any advanced tactics. It's all beginner stuff. Alright, so interact with the merchant. Most merchants will play a round of cards with you.
Some tortoise shells.
Okay. Hey, let's play Gwent. Gonna go ahead and max this out because we're probably gonna win.
Let's play cards. Gwent wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad at all, would it? Alright. Okay, so we'll start with deck composition. You have a total number of cards in your deck. You want to keep this number down. You don't want to have a lot of garbage filler cards. You want to be sure to pretty much only have your best cards in your deck. The reason for this, at the beginning of every match, the game will, at random, select 10 cards. That's going to be your actual hand that you're going to play from throughout the round, throughout each round. So, keep your deck narrowed down to only your absolute best cards, so that when the match starts, it will select 10 of your absolute best cards. Okay, so deck composition. On the left-hand side here, over here, you have, this is just your deck these are cards that you do not currently have in your deck. Okay, this is just your collection of cards you have available to add to your deck. You have your infantry. These are your front rank fighters. These are all really crappy low-level cards, so I have weeded every single one of them out of my deck. You'll notice these guys, this poor fucking infantry, what they do, if you see the hands, the little two hands symbol there, shaking hands, each of these types of cards, if you place one of them on the same row as the same card, they will double each other's value. In this case, it will double each other's value to 2. So yeah, totally useless, nothing but filler. I immediately weed these types of cards out of my deck. I don't even allow them to be present in the deck, so that there is no chance of them being selected when it selects the 10 cards at the beginning of the match. Okay, so these guys are out of there. Next is archers. I do not currently have any archers outside of my deck. All the archer cards that I have are in play, and we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, these are your artillery, trebuchets, things of that nature. Siege machines. So, again, this is a very low value card. I have removed it from my deck because I don't want any chance of this extra card here being added to my 10 when the match starts. You'll notice this plus symbol on them, and what it does is when you play this card, all the other cards on the row will get 1 point. So it adds 1 point to all units in the row, excluding itself. So a card like this can only add a maximum of, you know, maybe 6 or 7 points, and I could play one card to get 6 or 7 points. There's no use for this guy by himself. So I pretty much exclude these from my deck whenever possible. Let's see. Here, these are your hero cards. Again, very low, very low powered deck here. My first match of this playthrough. I don't have any heroes at this point. Cool thing about hero cards, though, you will see a golden border around the number showing the strength. And that means that that card cannot be affected by any statuses. Once you put that card in play, then nothing can take it out of play. It's pretty much invulnerable. Okay, these are special cards, weather cards. Frost is absolutely devastating to infantry. You know, think of armies tried to march across Russia in the winter. It doesn't work out so well for them because frost is devastating to foot soldiers. Okay, impenetrable fog. This will neutralize archer targets, because if your archers cannot see their targets, then they cannot shoot their targets. So fog will neutralize archers. The torrential rain will neutralize trebuchets, siege engines, things of that nature, because the ropes and leather straps and everything get soft in the rain, reduces the tension of the siege machine, and they're not able to throw their ammunition as far. So, torrential rain neutralizes siege engines and catapults and trebuchets. The clear weather card will clear any or all of these other negative effects. So even if you had multiple weather effects in play on the field at one time, clear weather will wipe out all of those. It's kind of a nuke for weather effects. And that leads to why I like to have this specific leader card. When I'm using the Northern Realms deck, I use this one because it will clear any weather effects, including biting frost, torrential rain, impenetrable fog, or all three, if they're all three in play. So this is basically like having an 11th card in your hand that will nuke any weather effects and remove them from the field. Pretty handy to have as a backup, since it doesn't take up space in your actual deck of 10 cards, in your hand of 10 cards. Okay, so moving over here, this is my actual deck that I have in play. We'll start with infantry. This character is worth 5, doesn't do anything special, just adds 5 points to your board. 5, 5, and 5. Now, these guys, we talked about these briefly a minute ago with the little symbol of shaking hands there. If you have 2 of these cards and they're in play at the same time, they will double each other's value. So, if I had 2 of these, they would increase each other. They would both increase to a value of 8. Resulting in a total of 16 points added to your, to your board that round. Okay, and now these guys, these are spies with the eye symbol on them. That means it is a spy card. Spies are a little weird. What they do is that 5-point value, it will actually add 5 points to your enemy's field, but when you play it, it will add 2 of your cards to your deck. It'll take 2 cards from your deck and actually put them in your hand. So you start each match with a total of 10 cards in your hand. Once you play this spy, it will add 2 more cards to your hand, increasing your total point value and increasing your options if you get another special type of card. Okay, so spies. These are your infantry. This is your front row. My archers, I have these. These are just basic. It just adds, this one 6, this one adds 5 and 5, only adds 4, 4. This one is another one of those guys with the shaking hand symbols. So if I had 2 of these and play them at the same time in the same round, they would double each other for a total value of 10 each. So playing 2 of these cards, will bring you up to 20 for that 1 row in 1 round. So very handy to have. Alright, let's see. My trebuchets and siege units. This is the same. It has the shaking hand symbol on there, so if we play 2 of them in the same round, they would double each other. Both would be 16, adding a total of 32 points just by playing these 2 cards. So these are really nice to have. You want to have as many of them in your deck as you possibly can, either by purchasing them from merchants or winning them in matches. Okay, we'll go to this guy next because, again, we've talked about them briefly. I do have one of these in my deck just because you have to have 22 unit cards. So I don't have anything better to put in there. Now, the reason you'll see at the bottom left there, you'll see a ×2. I have 2 of these guys in my active deck right now because they're only valuable, really, in pairs. You know, if you can add 2 of them to a row, then you can add more points. That's the only value they have. And as fodder, you know, if you want to play them early to let them get wiped out by other effects that your enemy might play, then, you know, you can use them basically as pawns in a chess game. Alright, much more powerful, much more fun. These are your medics. A medic, when you play the medic card, it will allow you to pull a card that was eliminated in an earlier round. So it's kind of a waste to play these medic cards in the first round, but in the second or possibly the third round, they can revive any card that was taken off the board by your opponent. So very handy, very, very handy. I love having these. You want to have as many of these in your deck as you can so that you have a higher chance of adding them to your hand each match. Alright. Heroes. Again, we're early game here, so I don't have any hero cards yet. Special cards, or weather cards rather, I actually don't keep any weather cards in my deck because they just take up space. For my play style, there are other play styles that work very well, but for my play style, the tactics I use, I prefer to just clear weather effects whenever possible. And again, that is why I keep this leader card that is a bonus card in your hand each match that lets you clear weather without taking up space in your hand. So, and now we get to special cards. The only special card I have at this point is a decoy. And what makes decoys so interesting is that you can play this card to remove a card from the field. Why is this handy? Because, let's say we have one of our medics. You could actually play your medic, put her on the field, she adds 5 points to your point total, and allows you to revive a card that was taken out of play earlier in the match. So you play your medic, she revives a character, revives another card, and then, next round, you play your decoy and remove the medic from the field. You can then play her a second time. So you drop your decoy, remove your medic from the field, and play that medic again, allowing your medic to raise 2 fallen units. Decoys are also handy if you have spy cards, because if your opponent plays a spy, he will put the spy on your field, adding points to your field, but then you can use that decoy to steal his spy. Play your decoy, remove that spy from the board, putting it back in your hand, and then you play the spy. So, decoys are useful in that you can spam your medic card and play it multiple times, or you can also use a decoy card to steal spies. So that's about as advanced as it's going to get right now. Early game, very weak deck, no upgrades, no special cards. So we'll keep it as basic as we can. I am ready to go ahead and start the match because my actual active deck over here is already built as well as it can be at this point. So we'll start the match and we'll see what happens. Again, this is random. You have no way to know at the beginning of the match which cards are going to be added to your hand, but you can swap 2 of them. So this is what's actually in my hand right now. And it's very cool because I got a spy and I got a decoy. So those are very handy. But notice these low point value cards here. These cards are only worth 4 each and they don't do anything special. Okay? They're, just fodder, basically. I'm going to remove at least one of these. Let's see what we get. I can trade this for another random card from my deck. Okay, so I got 1 bonus point. I can also trade this one. Now these guys, sometimes I'll trade them because they are only useful in pairs. This is the one with the hand shaking symbol. They're only really useful if you have 2 of them in your hand to play. But, Sometimes cards will be added later in other rounds when you win a round. If I win a round with this Northern Realms deck, then it will automatically add a card from my deck. If I play this Spy, it will add 2 cards from my deck. So there's a chance I will add one of this matching cards later in the match. So I'm going to hang on to him on the off chance that I may get another card like it. And we're going to ditch this guy because it's just 4 points and it doesn't do anything special. What did we get? Again, nothing special. Okay, so this is my actual hand. These are the cards that I can play throughout this match. We have this one guy who's only useful with friends. We have a spy who he will actually add points to the enemy's field, but he's working for me, so he adds 2 from my deck into my hand. We'll have a medic in play, so she can revive cards that were taken out of play earlier in the match. And I've got 2 heavy siege units. Alright, so we're going to start the match. I normally start by trading spies. I'm going to put my spy in play. You'll notice it actually added 5 points to my enemy's field. The enemy is an idiot and has already passed. So this is an example of, early game opponents. They have really kind of inferior tactics. They're not super bright and they're not very skilled players. So he has passed with only 5 points on his board. Completely useless. So all I have to do is put some points in play, just enough to beat him. I can either let him have this round, or I can put just enough points out there to defeat him. And if I do, say, a 6-point card, yeah, we'll just do one single 6-point card. I just won this round. So I'm going to go ahead and pass. Won the round. Now, you notice the little jewels breaking over there. What that means, there's a total of 3 rounds. Ah, nice. It did add one of my matching pairs here. So in a second, I'll show you how those work when used in tandem. Okay, so over here, you have these jewel symbols. I won the first round, so it took 1 jewel away from my opponent. That means I only have to beat him 1 more time. I've only got to succeed 1 more round. In order for him to beat me, he would have to beat my total points twice. I've only got to beat him once. Okay, so don't have anything else really interesting to play just yet. So what I'm going to do is play just a low point value card that doesn't do anything special. And let's see what happens. See what he does next. Okay, just a basic 2-point card. Now notice you have your infantry, archers, and siege engines. He has the same infantry, archers, and siege. Alright, so, yeah, I could really just do anything. Doesn't matter at this point. Just kind of see what happens. Play another low point value card that doesn't have any special abilities. And he has played a weather effect. So, what that weather effect does, you notice these guys were worth, what, 5 and 5 each? Now that they are affected by a weather card, they are only worth 1 point each, making my total over here only 2 points for this row. But it also damages his infantry. You know, the cold doesn't care who it's killing, it affects all infantry equally. So, his row has been reduced to 1, my infantry row has been reduced to 2. That is why I like to keep these this leader card here that clears all weather effects. Now at this point it's not a big deal, I don't have to use this. I actually prefer to save this until later in the match after my opponent has had an opportunity to play all of his weather cards. So that way, you know, he may have another card. He may have a rain card which will tank my siege units. He may have a fog card, which will trash my archer units. So I'm going to wait to play that clear weather until later in the match. I could probably win without playing it at this point, but it is what it is. Alright, so let's just play another fairly low point card that doesn't do anything special. Notice that because it was played in the frost, it reduced him to 1. Also, the card my opponent just played, the Griffin card. Normally worth 5 points. It's now only worth 1 because he put it in his own cold effect. Alright, so moving on, let's start adding some archers to the second row here. They are not affected by frost. They are affected by fog. So if he's got a fog card, he's probably going to play it. Okay, he played a 5-point siege unit, a frost giant or ice giant. Alright, so he's at a total of 9 points. I'm at a total of 8 points. But I've still got some pretty heavy hitters that I can play here. Let's just play one of these just to see what happens. Okay, now this one is unique. These types of cards with the 2 soldiers symbol on there, looks like 2 soldiers' helmets. If he had more than one of these just in his deck, not actually in his hand in play, but just in his deck over here, if he had more than one, it would automatically play all of them. So let's say he had 2 or 3 of these. By putting one in play, he would be pulling in the others for an additional 6, additional 6, additional 6, however many cards he's got. By playing one of these, he could add, 12, 18, 24 points just in one play. So these are actually really powerful cards if you have several of them in your deck, which, again, low level, he does not have multiples. He only had that one, so it's really not that much of a threat. So let's go ahead and start pulling out. Well, we can waste one more here. Since this guy doesn't have any buddies with him, he's just 5 points on the board. And he's played a fog. I knew it. Okay, so that is why I like to hold my clear weather card until later in the match. Because if he's got multiple weather cards, then I can clear all of them by playing this one card. So we're still going to save that. Because, heck, he may have a rain card he's trying to play to ruin our siege engine. Okay, let's go ahead and play this lady. We'll put the medic on the field. And you'll see when I add the medic to the field, it allows me to summon the only card that has fallen in a previous match. So, there's that. Now, let's see what he does. He has a rain card. This is a beautiful example. I'm glad it worked out this way. This allows me to demonstrate the power of having that clear weather card as a reserve. But again, I'm going to, well, if I clear the weather now, it's possible he may play another weather effect, but I don't see it doing that much damage to my total points. So we're going to go ahead and just to demonstrate, we're going to play this leader card to clear all weather effects. And that's going to take me up from 8 to 42. I now have a total of 42 points on my board, and he only has 27. And notice he's only got 2 cards left, where I have 4 cards left. Alright, so that was another one of those cards that can summon its friends. If he had multiple copies of this card in his deck, then it would play all of them, which, again, that can be devastating if you have multiples. Fortunately, he only had the one, so not a threat. Alright, let's go ahead and see what these guys do. Again, with the handshaking symbol there, if you play them at the same time on the same row, they will strengthen each other. Let's see how that works out. We're going to play the first one. Okay, basic 5-point card, nothing special. And now I'm going to play my second of these guys. Watch what happens to their point values. They're going to go from 4 to 8. Just by adding those 2 cards, it added a total of 16 points. Okay, here's another interesting card. These that he just played with the, I don't know, Uno reverse symbol on there. With that symbol, then you see in the golden circle there a sword and a bow. So what that means is that card can be played either on the infantry row or on the archer row. Either one. You can play it on the front row or the second row. Either way. The reason that's useful is if there are weather effects in play. Remember, the cold weather tanks your infantry, the fog trashes your rangers, archers, and the rain trashes your siege units. So, let's say there were a frost effect trashing the infantry, you could instead play this card on the archer row. If there were fog in effect to trash archers, then you could instead play this card on the front row. Either way, it's very versatile. Okay, so there's really nothing else for me to do. He's out of cards now. He has 0 cards in his deck over here. There's no way he could possibly do anything. But just to demonstrate, I'm going to go ahead and play this decoy here. I could remove my medic from the field, and then on my next turn, play her again. Now, it's not going to do anything right now because I don't have any extra cards that were taken from me in earlier matches. So I'm just going to add her back on the field. But note, if you have multiple decoys, you can do that multiple times. Take the medic from the field again, play her a third time, adding a third card from your destroyed cards. So, there we go. The first round, he basically ruined his chances of winning by passing. After the first move, I only had to play 1 card to put 6 points out to beat him. The second round is where I just absolutely trashed him with a total of 58 points to his 34, and it did not reach a third round, so there's no values there. So that is just a beginner's tutorial. This is a very complex and involved game. There are nearly infinite possibilities for how this can play out, but that's a pretty good example of how you get started and some beginning tactics and what each card does. So there we go. More to come later.